So I want to talk with you a little bit about one of my favorite passages in the Bible, Isaiah 56, verses 6 and 7. This is the familiar passage where God says, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations." But there's so much in it that I just want to unpack a little bit of it for us to give us a little bit more vision and teaching on what God wants in His house. So here we go. I'm just going to read it and talk through it for just a second. Here's Isaiah 56, 6 and 7. "And the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, to minister to Him, to love the name of the Lord, to be His servants, everyone who keeps the Sabbath and does not profane it, and holds fast my covenant, these I will bring to my holy mountain. I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples." I'm going to jump back to verse 6 and talk a little bit about this. Verse 6, "And the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord." I don't know about you. I am not Jewish, but maybe you are a completed Jew or a Messianic Jew. But when it says the foreigners, it means those who are outside the Jewish. God always wanted people to jump in with this. It was never just about one people, but it was about all people coming to Him. So the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, if you've joined yourself to the Lord, this is actually our call as a people. And I love this phrase, to minister to Him. To minister to Him. Many times we think of the word ministry and we think about ministering to people, praying for the sick, maybe helping people out. But the word ministry in the Bible is majority used when we're talking about ministry actually to the Lord. And ministry in the Bible has this connotation of waiting on tables or serving somebody, just saying, what would you like? How can I serve you? How can I help you? And I love this phrase because this phrase, ministering to the Lord, has marked us as a people. And it's such an incredible phrase. When I come to the house of God, I'm not first and foremost thinking about how can I minister to people. I'm thinking about how can I minister to the Lord, because He's joined us together to Him first and foremost to minister to Him. What would you like, Lord? How can we bless you as a people, as your bride or as your children? How can we bless you today as a people? So the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to Him. So that's our first call, to love the name of the Lord. This is incredible because in this TWI model that we're going to talk about, the main point of it all is revolving around the character of God, the names of God. And so it's almost like He's been teaching us without us knowing it with this silly model. But we come to minister to Him, to bless Him. What's on your heart, God? And usually what's on His heart is who He is. Because who He is the answer to the world's problems. And so we come together to minister to Him as a people, to love His name, to love who He is, and to be His servants. So out of that place, we're coming in, we're ministering to Him, we're loving in His name, and to be His servants, not just in His house, but out of the house. So we come in to minister to Him, we go out to be His servants to each other and to a lost and broken world. Everyone who keeps the Sabbath and does not profane it, and who holds fast my covenant. I love that. We want to be people who hold fast to His covenant. Paul would say, I betroth you to one husband. I'm jealous for you. I'm jealous for you. And I'd say to the screen, to you on the other side of the screen, I'm jealous for you to be a pure bride before the Lord, for your community to be a pure bride before the Lord, to have a pure devotion to Him, as Paul said, to hold fast to your covenant, that we would not lose our first love at all times. These, I love that phrase, these, who? Those who are in verse 6. These I will bring to my holy mountain. I think about Psalm 24 when I think about the holy mountain, those who ascend the hill of the Lord. Let's ascend the hill of the Lord together and make them joyful in my house of prayer. I can't think of the amount of people that sometimes think, okay, prayer is just a routine thing. It's a duty. And it really, for me too, it's become a duty at times. For me, I've felt dry. For me, I've felt, what am I doing here? But the more it becomes about ministering to Him, the more it becomes about loving His name and coming to just encounter Him, we will actually find joy in the house of prayer when it becomes less about duties, less about outcomes, less about our prayer list, which are all wonderful. We're going after those, but they're secondary to encountering the one who invited us first, in the first place, to meet with Him. That is where we'll find joy in the house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. I love this because if Jesus had a church in this day and age, he'd probably call it something like a house of prayer for all nations, or a house of prayer for all peoples, because it says it here, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. And I'm not saying that you have to call your church or your ministry a house of prayer or whatever. But what I'm saying is, what did he call it? What identity did he give it? When God calls someone something, or he gives a name to something, it's putting an identity on them. And we just did a video on what is prayer, but I just want to break it down again. A house of prayer for all peoples, as it says in ESV or the NASB, for all nations, is a missional family relating to God together. So a house, we are a family, we are a people, we are relating to each other of prayer, but we're not just relating to each other. Ultimately, we are called to be in relationship with God together. We're called to be in relationship with God together, and we're called to bring people into this relationship with God and with each other. And I love this phrase because it kind of marks again our Antioch ministry philosophy, which is encounter, disciple, mission. A house, that's the disciple part of it. Prayer, that's the encounter part. For all peoples, that's the mission part. And God was stamping his identity on what would be his people throughout all of eternity, that we are to be a missional family relating to God together, that in all things we're looking to him, that he is the first place. We're here to minister to you together. Let's just, hey friends, let's learn how to minister to him together. Hey, you don't know him? Hey, come on in and let's minister to him. Let's encounter him. Because if the world encounters him, then they'll be able to jump into the family with him, and there'll be nothing that we desire but him. So this is what it means to be a house of prayer for all nations, as it says in Isaiah 56, 6 and 7.